Welcome back, day 2. And today we are going over the guided notes for Reconstruction Part 2. So be sure to have those printed out or open on another tab so you can fill in the information as we go through the video. And then at the end of the week, I will post the entire slideshow for those that maybe couldn't watch the video for some reason. So here we go. Let's get started. Yep. Now, one thing that was an idea of the radical Republicans in Congress was the creation of the Freedmen's Bureau. And this was an organization that was created in 1865, and it was active until 1872. It was established by Congress to provide aid to the newly freed African Americans in their transition from slavery to freedom. The Freedmen's Bureau was an amazing organization that, had it been allowed to work, could have done so many amazing things for decades to come. Unfortunately, as you probably can guess from yesterday's slideshow, when you have division in power of presidency versus Congress, something's going to be scrapped. And again, think about how much this is connected to what's going on in the United States today. Again, so we have some videos in today's lecture, so please go back and watch them. I will provide links, and just be sure to do that. I'm going to try to skip them for now, so you're not on here for too long. All right, so what was the Freedmen's Bureau all about? Some of the great things that it did, it established schools, which consider, prior to the end of the Civil War and the 13th Amendment, most people who were enslaved never got an education. In fact, it was actively illegal to teach slaves how to read or write, because what would happen? Well, if a person who was enslaved can read and write, they can realize that, hey, what you're doing is illegal. They could read the Constitution and go, well, wait a second, it says I'm supposed to be free because I'm due life, liberty, and pursuit of justice. The organization provided aid, so that could be money to purchase a home. It could be helping to relocate families. They also provided legal services. They settled disputes, which was very important for the South, because again, you have the former slave owners who are mad that they've lost their free workforce and are having to negotiate now with the formerly enslaved. How do I get you to come back and work on my farm, but now I have to pay you, and yada, yada. Healthcare was provided. So there were new hospitals and doctors available for formerly enslaved. Prior to this, you had to rely on your master, whether or not he would take care of you or not medically. Secure equal treatment in the courts. Again, going back to those disputes and legal issues, the Freedmen's Bureau provided that. But the greatest thing that the Freedmen's Bureau did was through education and healthcare. So now that the enslaved workforce is gone for the South, you've got formerly enslaved Black men and women who either got out of the South and went north. But if you didn't have the money for that, you need a job and you need to be able to make money for your family. Well, starting off with no money means that there's got to be kind of a negotiation going on between your former master or a former master and you trying to now be employed. And so the system that developed was called sharecropping. So what would happen is Black families would rent part of a plantation, like part of the field, and then in theory, they would get free equipment to use. They would, well, not free equipment, like they're leasing the equipment. They're buying seeds on credit, and who holds the credit? Well, that would be the former slave master. And then at the end of the season, you will take part of that crop to pay for the leasing of tools, the leasing of the land, and pay off your debt. And then you would have the rest of that crop to sell. But the problem with that is you're selling to the old slave master who controls the prices. Yeah, you can see a problem with this, right? And then you would be able to, in theory, make your money back, keep going. But as I just kind of previewed for you, there is a whole bunch of flaws in the system. So we're going to look at a primary source document here. It's a good opportunity to take a drink because I want you to look at this picture for a second. Think about what you're seeing. What are you seeing just overall? Where are they at? What are the people doing? How do they look? And I don't mean, are they black? Are they white? What I mean is, what is their demeanor? What is their, expressions on their face? And another thing to notice, if you haven't, is what are the ages of each of these people? So I'm hoping you're noticing that, first of all, it looks like an older man to the left, and he is kind of bent over. I don't know if he's actually picking cotton there, or it almost looks like he's maybe gonna collapse, or, I'm not sure what he's doing there, but it doesn't look like a comfortable working position, right? And then look all the way to the far right in the middle of the screen, and you've got a little boy there. So sharecropping wasn't just dad going out to work, maybe mom going out to work. It's the whole family. So for that last picture, let me go back there for a second. There's a worksheet to fill out where you're going to answer some questions and again, submit them for points. Again, if you have trouble submitting them, then go ahead and just take a picture of you writing down the answers and be sure to put your name on the paper. Sometimes when we do online classes, we forget that, and I'm not psychic, so I don't know who wrote what. And then also put like what the assignment is. Okay, let's go forward. So the History Channel has provided a description of sharecropping, and the highlighted part is kind of the key definition of what sharecropping is. So sharecropping is a type of farming in which families rent small plots of land from a landowner in return for a portion of their crop to be given to the landowner at the end of each year. So yeah, it sounds like a good deal, right? Especially if you have no money or no credit built up. And the one thing that if you keep reading this, that's important is it wasn't just the newly freed, formerly enslaved people. It was also poor whites. Poor whites were also taking advantage of this kind of like rent to own business. But you can imagine that if you were the poor white sharecropper, you might be given a little more leniency. You might be given more debt forgiveness than that person who, in the eyes of the old slave master or the old plantation owner, would be like, well, you were my former slave, so I'm going to take more of your crop because I think it's not as good than the person farming next to you, which is a poor white guy. It was a system meant to keep Black families down in the South. All right, so we're going to take a look at a sharecropping contract. And that's a worksheet page, so I do want you to kind of look at that and again, answer the questions that are with it. Then I want you to go on to the slideshow here and watch the video. Make sure it's a video real fast. Yeah, it's on PBS. So you're going to watch this. There are a couple questions in your notes to answer with this, so be sure to watch this. Where they're going to talk about, and the volume's a little low, which is another reason why I don't want to play it here. So be sure to watch that. All right, so let's keep going. Now, remember yesterday when I said that each step forward was going to lead to 5 steps back? Again, you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again. So what's developed is as a result of the formerly enslaved now being freed is the Southern local governments, remember with the blessing of President Johnson, is going to kind of fight back against the results of the Civil War. And they create a system of laws known as the Black Codes. Southern governments began passing laws that restricted the freedom of Blacks, and I should apologize. I should have capitalized the B there. So I will be sure to fix that. And the purpose, of course, is obvious. It's keeping African Americans in an inferior position. This is something that maybe you've heard of in your lifetime. Okay, it is not. It started back in the late 1860s and 70s, but some southern cities and even in Missouri, there's been black codes on the book up until recent times. Your grandparents might have had to deal with the black codes. Maybe your parents, depending on what your age is. So this was a concept that was allowed for a long, long time in a lot of places. Here's another video where you're going to learn about some of this. And again, in your guided notes are some questions. I want you to answer those. And then when you submit this, make sure that way I can give you credit for answering the video questions. So we're going to skip the video here, another PBS video. Well, so if the South is going to create black codes to try and fight back against the radical Republican Congress trying to provide freedom to formerly enslaved individuals, well, Congress is going to start acting. This is example of not what our Congress is doing today, but how a Congress, when they're working together, can make positive change for a country. So some of you may have thought like, oh, the Civil Rights Acts, those were in the 1960s, right? You know, with Dr. King and Malcolm X and all that. Oh no, that was the second civil rights. We had a civil rights 100 years before that. How cool is that? And it was the Civil Rights Bill of 1866, so literally the year after the war's over. And they asked for a lot of different things in this, and it's pretty impressive. First of all, they required a national definition of citizenship. You know, okay, we are now free, we are now citizens, but we need you to kind of change the wording so it means that we are in fact free in the Constitution. And so here's where we get what we'll later hear about in the 14th Amendment, which again is threatened right now in the news today. And that is the 14th Amendment guarantees that all persons born in the United States are national citizens. Why is this important? Because during slavery, first of all, if you were Black, you were not considered a person. And if you're not considered a person, then you don't have any right to say that you are a US citizen, because a US citizen, again, is guaranteed certain rights. For example, the right to vote, the right to own land, the right to pursue the justice, blah, 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 blah. So this bill leads directly to the 14th Amendment, guaranteeing that it doesn't matter if you were born in slavery. If you were born in slavery in the United States, you are a US citizen now. The second requirement, all citizens are equal before the law. Why is this? Because there was two legal systems back there. Some things don't change, right? And they were asking that, you know, if I am now considered a citizen, which I should have been all along, then I need to be treated equally within the court systems. And finally, the rights of free labor, including the rights to make contracts, bring lawsuits, and have protection of their persons and property. And this is another big one that was needed, because these former Southern slave owners are going to fight tooth and nail to not treat their formerly enslaved individuals as equal. They're going to fight it as much as they can. So this original Civil Rights Bill was amazing that they were able to create this. And again, here we go. Then we get the 14th Amendment, granted citizenship to all persons born in the United States, and that they were equal protection of the law. So to get on my soapbox today, hypothetically, if someone came to you and maybe your parents were immigrants, maybe they were legal immigrants, maybe they were illegal immigrants, doesn't matter. If you were born in the United States, you are a citizen. That has not changed in the Constitution. So just keep that Keep that in mind. Buy a little pocket-sized Constitution, carry it with you. Never hurts. Take a quick drink again. I don't know why I have to tell you I'm going to take a drink. I just feel like, it'd be rude for me not to. I do it in my live classes too. So then we get the Reconstruction Act. This is in 1867. And President Johnson, he vetoed it. He said, nope, don't want it. And this is the beauty of when our three branches of government work correctly. Congress said, well, thank you, President Johnson. We appreciate your veto, but we're going to overrule it because you're wrong. And the act divided the South into 5 military districts. So they're going to take all those, remember yesterday with the picture of the United States, here's the North, here's the South, separate. We're going to divide those Southern states into 5 sections. And it called for the creation of new Southern state governments and guaranteeing that Black men within those states had the right to vote. What does this mean? Oh, it was huge what this ends up doing. But remember, 1 step forward will result in 5 steps back. So take a look at this primary source document here. Like even pause the video. I'll try to remember to, I'm going to write myself a note right now, to provide this. So add 1867 image to Google. Okay. And take a look at these faces. So let's read from the top to the bottom. We'll start with the title above. The first South Carolina legislator after the 1867 Reconstruction Acts. Below that, in 1868, South Carolina had its first state legislature with a Black majority. Okay, wait, hold up. What? 1867, South Carolina? Wasn't that part of the South during the Civil War? Yes, it was. And after 1867, 1 year after it, the people they elected to Congress, for its state legislature at least, was a majority Black men. Goes to show when you have a state with more Black population than their former enslavers of white population, change can happen. They didn't sit back and go, oh, I'm afraid to go vote. No, they went and voted, and this is the result. An amazing image here. Continuing to read the smaller print up there, this image includes 63 of the legislative members, and it was distributed throughout the South Carolina by opponents of radical Reconstruction. So wait, those Southern Democrats, why are they sending around a picture like this? Because they wanted to outrage the white population. But now in modern history, we look at that and think, what an amazing accomplishment that South Carolina had there in that year. Again, please go through the video and answer questions on your guided notes. Again, you're going to learn about some really interesting guys on this video. It's fun to learn about. Skip. All right. Now we get to the 15th Amendment of the Constitution. And history looks at these 3 amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th, kind of together as one central era. The 15th Amendment, first of all, prohibited governments from denying any citizen the right to vote because of race. Because those 5 steps back I just mentioned, we're giving you the right to vote, we're saying you're citizens, but local state governments are going to try to fight that. So that led to the 15th Amendment being created. And it prohibited governments from denying, I just read this, any citizen the right to vote because of race. But of course, states came up with loopholes, right? Oh, wait, loopholes, government doing that? Well, I've never heard of that. Yeah, we have. States could discriminate on basis other than race. So they're still going to target Black citizens, but they're going to put it under the guise of these other issues. So for example, oh, you can't read. I'm going to give you a test when you come to vote. It's a literacy test. And if you fail it, then sorry, we don't want you to vote because obviously you're not smart enough. There was a test that we took in class a couple terms ago, and if I can find it, I'll post it. And you'd be amazed that most people on it flunked. But not because they weren't literate, it was because the questions were so ambiguous that the test, like the teacher grading the test, could fail everyone that they wanted to. Or you can't pay taxes because you're a sharecropper. So sorry, we're going to create this thing called a poll tax, where every time you come to vote, you got to pay us some money. Were they doing that to the white people down there? Nope, nope. So again, they were trying to use loopholes to prevent the Black population, which at that time is only going to be men who could vote. Which, sorry, ladies, even for us white ladies, we weren't getting to vote then either. We're going to get to that a little later. So as we said, it did not extend suffrage to women. So that's it for our notes today. So again, please please go back, watch the videos, and make sure that you submit your guided notes. If you have any questions, reach out to me and I will talk to y'all tomorrow.